So we are moving right along in chapter 6. So far we've learned how to find factors, and then we've used those factors to find a common multiple in order to find a common denominator in order to write equivalent fractions. We learned all of that so we could do what? Add and subtract fractions that have different denominators, right? Today we're going to move one tiny step forward, and in chapter 6.7 we are going to add and subtract not just fractions, but mixed numbers, okay? And your learning goal for today is to add and subtract mixed numbers with unlike denominators. And let's talk a little bit about what that learning goal even means. What is a mixed number? Siddharth, what's a mixed number?
It's a whole number, and next to it is going to be a fraction.
So it's a number that has two parts. It's mixed. It has a whole number part and a fraction part. What's an example of a mixed number? Marcus?
8 and 2/5.
8 and 2/5. It has a whole number, 8, and a fraction part, 2/5. Sarah, what's another mixed number?
5 and 3/4.
5 and 3/4. It also has a whole number part, 5, and 3/4, a fraction part. Okay, in order to understand our learning goal, we also need to understand what an unlike denominator is, because we know we're going to add and subtract mixed numbers with unlike denominators. What's an unlike denominator? Rashika? Two fractions that have denominators that are different. Okay, Adriana, can you give me an example of two fractions or mixed numbers that have unlike denominators?
So 8 and 1/8.
1/8 and
5/9.
1/8 and 5/9. One denominator is 8 and one denominator is 9. Are they like or unlike? Unlike. They're different. Okay, so unlike denominators just means the two mixed numbers have different denominators. But first, let's talk about the problem of the day. Okay, so it says Denise, she's painting her house, okay? And so she's mixing paint because she wants to make green paint to paint her house. And it says that Denise mixed 1 4/5 ounces of blue paint with 2 1/10 ounces of yellow paint. How many ounces of paint did Denise mix? Well, I see words, I see problem. It's a word problem. The first thing we need to do is figure out what is the question asking. Yarden, what's the question asking? Right, we want to figure out all together how many ounces of paint did Denise mix. Okay, what's the important information, Thomas, that we need in order to figure that out? Mm-hmm. Right, and so in order to figure out how much paint there is altogether, what do I need to do, I guess? What's my math equation that I would need to do? Ashi?
1 4/5.
Mm-hmm.
2 1/10.
Yeah, in order to figure out how much paint there is altogether, I would need to add 1 4/5 plus 2 1/10. Go ahead and write that in your notebook so that you can follow along and take good notes. Marcus, write it down. Now, let's check in. Is this our learning goal? Do we have mixed numbers?
Yeah.
Are we adding or subtracting them?
Mm-hmm.
And do we have unlike denominators?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know we have unlike denominators here? Rashika?
Because 5 and 10 are not they're not the same numbers.
Right, our denominators are different numbers. Does that mean we can add right now?
No.
We are not yet ready to add because we do not have common denominators. So your first step, and I want you to write this in your notebook, step 1, find a common denominator and use it to write equivalent fractions. Okay, just looking at the fraction part, 4/5 and 1/10. What could be a common denominator? What could be a common denominator? Adam? 10. 10, okay. So if I would like to rewrite 1 4/5 into a mixed number that has 10 as its denominator, do I need to change the whole number part?
No.
No, I can keep the whole number part the same. When I'm writing equivalent fractions, do I ever need to change the whole number part? No. Okay. Now, if I want to change my denominator to be 10, what do I need to change my numerator to, and why? Misaki? If I want to change, how did I go from 5 to 10? What did I multiply by? I multiplied by 2, so what does that mean I need to multiply my numerator by? So what's 4 times 2? Good. So is 1 4/5 equivalent to 1 8/10? Yeah. Now, is my other addend, is the denominator already ready to go? Now I have 2 1/10. Now do I have common, like or unlike denominators? Do I have like or unlike denominators? Like. Does that mean I'm ready to add? Yeah. So step 2 is add the fractions. Okay, so let's just add the fractions part only. If I have 8/10 and I add another tenth to it, how many tenths do I have altogether? 9/10. Then add the whole numbers. What's 1 plus 2? 3. Then we have to check to make sure our answer is in simplest form. Is 3 9/10 in simplest form? We have to, of course, remember to write our units. What is our units in this problem? Rashika? Ounces. So my final answer would be 3 9/10 ounces. So I could say I cannot subtract yet because I have unlike denominators, right? They're different. So my first step is I need to find a common denominator and use it to write equivalent fractions. What could be a common denominator here? What could be a common denominator? Yarden? 12. Okay, sure. Now, do I need to change my whole number parts when I'm writing equivalent fractions? No. So I'm going to keep my whole number here the same, 4. And instead of having 5/6, I want something over 12. Now, what did I have to multiply the denominator of 6 by to get 12? Harshita? 2. So that means I need to multiply my numerator of 5 also by 2. So Harshita, what's 5 times 2? 10. Okay. Now I'm doing a subtraction problem. Do I need to change my next whole number part in order to write equivalent fractions? No, I never need to change that today. Okay. And then I want to rewrite 3/4 as a fraction over 12. I had to multiply my denominator of 4 by what, Karan? 3, which means I need to multiply my numerator of 3 by 3, which is 9. So what I'm saying here is I'm saying that 4 10/12 is equivalent to 4 5/6. Would you agree? I'm also saying that 2 9/12 is equivalent to 2 3/4. Yes? Okay. Now I have equivalent fractions, and do they have a common denominator? They have a common denominator of 12. Now I'm ready to subtract. Now in step 2, it tells me to first subtract the fraction part, then subtract the whole number part. Okay? So let's do the fraction part first. If I have 10/12 and I take away 9 of those 12s, how many 12s do I have left? 1/12. Okay. Now let me subtract the whole number part. 4 minus 2 is 2. So my answer in simplest form, is it in simplest form right now? Yeah. So my answer is 2 1/12.